Happy holidays, Feliz Navidad, and Merry Christmas to everyone here, from everyone here at the Wrestling Connection. Your host, your connection to wrestling world, as always, Mr. Ken Hill, coming to you live with episode 94 of the most must-see show to ever hit the Bedford TV airwaves, or any airwaves on that matter, the Wrestling Connection, your one-stop shop for all news professional wrestling. Now, this past Sunday, of course, was WWE's annual Christmas tradition, tables, ladders, and chairs. Now, it was a hard-fought battle, tooth and nail, came right down to the wire, literally within a couple minutes. But your winner of the WK Pay-Per-ReView, and still champion, Mr. Brian Dorrington Jr. Brian, I gotta tell you, like I said, it was a close one. It was literally right down the last
It's always
minutes.
close, but I always come out on top, so.
Yeah, soak in all that holiday cheer.
I'm currently the two-time Fantasy 15 DraftKings champion, by the way, for all the fans of that show as well.
Nice.
Thank you.
All right. Like I said, TLC was full of twists and turns, bumps and bruises. We have a lot to go over with this week with the Pay-Per-ReView. A little extra view right there. It is the holiday season. All right. Anyway. All right, we kicked off the TLC pay-per-view with the kickoff match featuring Team Bad Sasha Banks going up against Becky Lynch. Now, Becky's been breaking out more on her own since the dissolution of Team PCB. She's trying to establish her own identity after Paige called her out on being Charlotte's go-to sidekick. Now, we've seen more and more from Miss Lynch right here, the so-called last kicker, who's been making a name for herself in the singles ranks in the Divas division and try to prove herself against another up-and-comer in Sasha Banks, who has been making waves with her recent streak of wins in the Divas division. Now, these two clashed at TLC, of course, Team Bad at ringside, and, of course, Sasha was the hometown girl. Smart idea by WWE, trying to get the crowd going with the hometown chick, but not so much with the 12 Days of Christmas Team Bad edition, which had me going for my earplugs early. Yeah, but anyway, this is a fun little opener back and forth. Not of course up to snuff with the matches we saw between Becky and Sasha down in NXT, but good for what it was to get the crowd hot, to get the crowd going, and invested in TLC from the get-go. Now Sasha would pick up the win here after some outside interference from Team Bad, and picked up the win in her hometown. Now, for those who may seem surprised that a hometown would actually, when a person would actually get the win in their hometown, don't be so surprised. Hometown heroes usually don't get the fair shake in their hometown, but Sasha's not exactly what you call a hometown hero, so it kind of makes more sense when you think about it. Now, Brian, I know you picked Becky to win this, but with yet another win for Sasha, is it more or less a foregone conclusion that she's going to be the next contender for the Divas Championship?
It's a foregone conclusion. Yeah, and I sort of knew that. You and I just have the same picks for everything. I kind of wanted to mix it up and pick different. Pick Becky. You'd already picked Sasha, but I'm pretty certain that she's going to be fighting for the title sometime soon, and she should be. She's arguably the top diva there is. Arguably more athletic than Charlotte and Paige.
Right. We've seen several contests down in NXT between Sasha and Charlotte, Sasha and Becky, Sasha and the current NXT champion Bayley, and all those matches have one thing in common for just how incredible they are, and that's Sasha herself. Not to take anything away from Charlotte or Becky or particularly Bayley, But Sasha is a bona fide worker. Okay, she's a women's wrestler. She's a wrestler first, a diva second, and you see in the way she works her matches. They're physical, they're brutal. These are women's matches we're talking about. They're not supposed to be brutal, but we see times where Sasha's wrenching back on an arm bar or a leg lock, and she makes it look like it hurts. That's how good she is. That's how dedicated she is. And I think any match between her and Charlotte in the near future is going to be like a benchmark for physicality in women's wrestling.
Agreed.
All right,
Julie.
Julie. I know you picked Becky to win this match, but I mean, how do you feel about Sasha from this point on after her most recent victory?
I agree with you. I think she's the real thing. She's the real deal. So I think in the next big match, she's going to be winning and she's going to go on a roll.
I agree with you. She's been on a major roll the last few months. I mean, Team Bad hasn't really slowed her down. If anything, I think it has the opposite effect of the whole "we want Sasha," is that her team's been behind her full force. So
Well, yeah, and the thing is that her team, they're not really contenders. We're not, looking as Tamina as the next champ.
No.
Whereas anybody, in Team PCB could have been champ. So it was a matter of time before they broke up. So
Right.
I think that they're just tag-alongs for Sasha. Well, everybody in PCB was a featured player, if you understand what I mean.
Right. So I mean, that's the thing. I mean, I think Naomi and Tamina kind of know their roles here, as far as being not lackeys to Sasha, but supporters. All right, they understand. They're reinforcing. They're not jealous of it. Just the fact that they're on the same stage as Sasha, they're sharing the limelight with her, is more than enough for them. And I mean, if Sasha does at one point or another win the Divas Championship with Team Bad, I see her holding it for a while. I see this team going on for at least 4 or 5 months at the least.
Well, we got to get there first. Let's see.
Like you said, let's get there first. But right now, like I said, Sasha on a major roll.
Ken, when is the Divas Championship? Can you hear me?
Is the mic on?
Can you hear me now?
No, I don't.
Really? Why doesn't he hear me? Can you hear me now?
Like
Can you hear me now?
now you come in.
Okay,
Loud
when
and
is
clear.
the Divas Championship?
No, I mean, I definitely see her challenging for the Divas Championship in the near future.
can't hear me.
Possibly the Royal Rumble, maybe even sooner, or we could even see a big time match at WrestleMania. So, but again, remains to be seen. Now, when we move on to the official first match for Tables, Ladders, and Chairs pay-per-view, which of course is the ladder match. We had a 3-way ladder match here. Of course, we all remember how this came about. The number one contenders
still
match
too.
between the Usos and the Lucha Dragons. New Day tried to get involved, tried to cause a double disqualification, and of course, even though neither team won, neither team lost, so we ended up getting a triple threat match, which was later turned into a triple threat ladder match. Now, we all talked about how this was going to be the show stealer for TLC, and it lived up to those expectations and more. Now, I mean, the 6 guys had to avoid the pitfalls of falling into the same sort of cliches ladder matches tend to fall into, is that having lots of unnecessary bumps and falls and spills. We didn't see that here. We saw a lot of interesting new innovations. I mean, with the Usos and the New Day, and my pick for the absolute spot of the night, a breathtaking 20-foot Selena Del Sol from Kalisto to Jey Uso off the top of a ladder through another ladder. This has to be seen. I mean, just look at this right here.
That was one of the craziest spots I've seen in a long
insane.
time.
I mean, all of that. I mean, just that was amazing. This whole match was amazing. New Day were amazing. Luchas were amazing. Usos were amazing. The Usos, I think, have finally come back to the same sort of in-ring shape they were in 2014, putting on great match after great match after great match. This really, I think, brought them back to the forefront of the tag team division, right alongside the New Day. And I would frankly love to see the New Day and Usos run up against each other in a one-on-one feud. I mean, for right now, it seems like we're getting the New Day versus the Luchas, but I definitely love to see the Usos mix it up with the New Day later on. All right,
Yeah,
now,
I just want to say there were no losers in this match. The New Day won, but everybody in this match is better off for having it. They all cemented themselves as top tag teams.
Yeah, I mean, we saw that the following night. I mean, just like with Edge and Christian and the Hardys when they had their ladder match in '99, the New Day came out, solemnly called out Usos and the Luchas, gave them their due props, their respect. They shook hands like gentlemen, and Xavier put it best. They're revolutionizing the tag team division here. I mean, you've got a team in the New Day that is breaking merch, that's selling out merch. They're charismatic, they're entertaining, they're athletic, they're hard hitting, both in the ring and out. I mean, you've got a new. Once again, this is my $5 word for the day. They're creating a new benchmark for tag team wrestling, and with the New Day, along with the Usos and the Luchas. The only thing I really could not take away from this, the one thing I did take away from this, was the horrible commentary. Now, Cole and company, they're subpar at best, but this was just bad because they were mixing up names, and you had Xavier in commentary pretty much calling them out every single time they flubbed up like that. And let me tell you this. Any wrestler, I don't care who it is, the only exception I would say was Kane because he almost never says anything, but I would prefer any wrestler on commentary than Cole or Lawler. JBL is kind of there, all right, because, he's a wealth of old school knowledge. He can break down the moves. He can break down the psychology of a match, the mindset of a wrestler, face or heel. That's what JBL is good at because he's been there. He's been in the business for a long time. But Cole and Lawler, they need to stop. They really need to do more in-depth research with the wrestlers and get a better understanding of them rather than just go through the motions. Because, the commentary is really taking a slide, and that's saying something in the last couple of weeks. Brian, do you see where I'm coming from here?
I do. I think the WWE needs to get connected.
Brian, I don't think your mic's working.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Nope.
How about now?
Little more.
How about now?
Little more.
How about now?
There you go.
Because you're going to want to hear what I have to say. I said the WWE needs to get connected.
Exactly.
They need Ken Hill calling Raw or SmackDown or both of them.
No, they need me in the commentary booth. That's what they.
Yeah, commentate. That's what I meant. Commentate.
They need someone, maybe me, that knows wrestling, is invested in wrestling, isn't just going through the motions for a paycheck. All right, this is my little Ken's Den blurb for the day. Is that they need someone in the commentary booth that has a passion for wrestling, who knows what they're talking about, doesn't just go through the motions for the sake of a paycheck week after week after week after week, and doesn't want to make us mute or Raw or SmackDown or NXT.
This should have been a Ken's Den.
Yeah, we just make this an hour long Ken's Den right here. Yeah. Don't get me started on the commentary.
I'm not going to get you started. Let's keep going with the review.
All right.
I know you're passionate about it. I love it, but we got a lot to go through.
All right. So moving on to the next match, we had Rusev versus Ryback. Kind of a cool down after the ladder match, and believe me, the Boston crowd needed it. This all came about after Rusev and Lana's reunion. And Ryback had some choice words about their supposed innocence, saving themselves from marriage, and that's how this all came about. And Ryback at one point accidentally bumped into Lana and supposedly caused a hip injury. Lana did not blame Ryback, but Rusev would have problems with Ryback, and then it turned out that ultimately Lana was faking to lure Ryback into a false insecurity, setting up to be ambushed by Rusev. Now, this match was all about vengeance for Ryback, getting revenge on both Lana and Rusev. Now, we saw some interesting interesting divergence in offense for Ryback. We saw him take to the sky more with double sledges and drop kicks, and I think that's good. I think that's actually good because WWE I like when, even if it's a topical effort, WWE tries to diversify its heavyweight division. They try to make these guys seem different rather than just have like prototypical strength versus strength matches. All right. I mean, you have Rusev with his kicks and his strikes and his submission grappling. You have Ryback here, who's been taking to the sky more. He's been doing planchas, drop kicks, and he hasn't actually looked half bad doing it. I mean, you saw right there, he's got a very impressive drop kick. But anyway, coming up towards the end of this, yeah, you see right here. I know both you and I have kind of ragged on Ryback in the past for his lack of offense, that he's kind of just blunt. He doesn't really have much to him. I think, like I said, even if it's just like a topical effort, I think it's good that WWE's letting him use a little more diverse offense here rather than just pretty much just meat hook, shell shock, suplex. I mean, I think it's good they're letting him take to the sky a little more. Although the less we have to hear about him being called Flyback, the better. Anyway, Ryback would once again fall to a distraction by Lana faking another injury, and that would open up the door for Rusev to come in with a thrust kick, and then locking in the accolade for the pass out submission. Now, this was a do-nothing match here. I mean, it was really too short to be interesting. Like I said, it was more of a breather after the ladder match. But it was good in the sense that a victory for Rusev is a victory for the League of Nations. All right? If you have a big faction like that, you need to have its individual members look strong too. Because you have to look at Nexus circa 2010, for example. Its members looked weak, and they didn't exactly have a good showing at SummerSlam, which is why the whole Nexus angle pretty much fell apart. Here, the League of Nations, they're picking up steam with their victories both in tag team action and in singles action, like we saw here with Rusev over Ryback. Ryback's got nothing going on for him. He doesn't lose anything from this loss, and Rusev and the League of Nations gain, so they look good as a faction in the coming months. All right, so now we move on to the next match.
Which one's the next match? I forget which one's next.
Sorry. All right. We move on to the next match, which was Paige versus Charlotte for the Divas Championship. Now, Paige, the booking behind this has been kind of weird because you had Paige calling out Charlotte on her tendencies being very much like that of her father, like pretty much being the dirtiest player in the game, cheating by any means, taking every advantage given to you, and instead of really going out of her way to defend that, Charlotte's been more or less becoming a carbon copy of her father, with the matching Rolex watches, the struts, the figure four, the attitude, the knee drops, the chop. The knife edge chops. I mean, Charlotte's been more or less becoming her father, which is kind of confusing for me because I actually watched Charlotte throughout her time in NXT, and she actually did everything she could to distance herself from becoming pretty much a female clone of her father, Ric Flair. But here it seems like more she's just kind of going towards being that carbon copy. And that's where I'm confused here, because if anything, I figured they'd try to be reinforcing the point she's her own person here. She has her own identity, and that's not the case. Anyway, this was another nice physical contest between Paige and Charlotte, playing in near falls. It was certainly less awkward than their first contest at Survivor Series, because there was certainly more aggression in this match. It wasn't nearly as technical as before, because now the aggression, you could really see the aggression between these two. Now, they traded near falls back and forth. At one point, Paige used Charlotte's own figure four against her to incense both her and her father, Nature Boy, who was at ringside. Now, at one point, Paige would actually hit the Rampage DDT, and it looked like she was closing in on her third Divas Championship, only for Flair to pull one of the oldest tricks in the Nature Boy playbook, putting Charlotte's foot on the ropes, breaking up the pinfall. Now, you notice in the upper left corner right there that turnbuckle's a little loose. That middle turnbuckle's a little loose. That would come into play later after Charlotte pulled down the middle turnbuckle, tripped Paige into it head first, and would wrap up a dazed Paige for the victory to retain her Divas Championship. Now, this more or less means that Paige has to go to the back of the line. She's no longer in contention for the Divas Championship, but it does raise some concerns about whether Charlotte's the new top heel in the division. Now that we have Nikki Bella on the disabled list, Paige is no longer at the forefront of the Divas Revolution. Now it's Charlotte. And again, I mean, she's more or less embraced her dad's ways of cheating and fighting by any means to win. Now, I mean, we'll see what that factors out, whether she forges her own identity because of this, or if she's just in danger of becoming a carbon copy of her father. I mean, Julie. Do you see the eerie similarities between Charlotte and her father Rick?
Absolutely. Am I on?
No, you're on. You're
Yeah.
on.
Absolutely. I was really hoping for Paige to win this match, and I actually picked her because I'm getting tired of Charlotte and all the shenanigans with her father.
Yeah, I mean, frankly, I'm not tired of it, but I'm kind of hoping she kind of takes it in a different direction, not just takes everything right out of Rick's playbook. Because, I mean, look, I love Ric Flair. I'm a big fan of Ric Flair. I'm a big fan of watching the wheeling and the dealing and the dirtiest player in the game get up to his old tricks. I'm a big fan of that, just like anyone else. But the thing is, all right, like I said, Charlotte forged her own identity down in NXT without having to always bank on her family's legacy. I mean, here, it just feels like, if anything, she's embraced it more and more. And I don't know if they're doing that intentionally or if that's just kind of like the effect we're seeing here with her father being back in the WWE ring.
Yeah, I mean, look how excited he is. He's the one who wants all the glory. That's why he's doing this.
Exactly. That's something Paige brought up, is that Nate is more or less just trying to hog the spotlight here. So, I mean, it plays into two things. Whether Becky, who's been in the middle of all this with Paige and Charlotte, is going to realize that she is more or less the sidekick to Charlotte, who doesn't think she can win on her own, and is Rick really trying to steal the spotlight from his own daughter?
Look at the photo. He's definitely trying to steal the spotlight. He's acting as if he won.
And you know what the crazy thing is? I wouldn't put it past Rick for a second. It's in his nature. He's the nature boy for a reason.
You guys are talking storyline, right? You don't think Ric Flair, the person, is actually...
the real Ric Flair, no.
Okay,
But
I'm just curious.
The character, no. The character, I wouldn't put it past him for a second.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
No, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if that's how this all turns out, that this was just a ploy by Nate just to get back in the spotlight again. All right, so we come
maybe like a mixed tag match. What would you think of that?
I mean,
that'd be interesting.
Rick and
Charlotte, and then I don't know, Paige and
whatever legend,
whoever else she develops a love interest with in the next few weeks. I think that'd be interesting.
In WWE, you never know. I mean, with all the love angles they got going on around here, I mean, cross your fingers on that one.
We'll need to do a Valentine's Day show.
Oh, the irony of that, we'll get on to the next match in just a sec. The irony of that is the very first episode we
St.
did,
Valentine's Day Massacre.
St. Valentine's Day Massacre, the match between Stone Cold and Mr. McMahon. Ironically enough, so that was actually our first episode.
But there wasn't really a love interest in that storyline.
No, more like a hate interest.
Hate. That's what it was.
Interest with Vince and Stone Cold. That was more like it. All right, now we come on to the next championship match, which was the United States title being defended by Alberto Del Rio. Sorry, I can't roll my R's very well. versus Jack Swagger in a chairs match. Now, chairs matches aren't notoriously good. I mean, we had a couple of good ones, decent ones with Batista and Undertaker. But all in all, it's kind of a hard match to do because you're only working with chairs. There's only so much originality you can have with a chairs match. But Del Rio and Swagger gave it the old college try. And, I mean, we saw plenty of brutality here. We had a sword fight with chairs. We had Del Rio going postal on Swagger's back with a steel chair. I mean, yeah, you see right here, these two clashing each other to start out the match. We saw Del Rio at one point going postal on Swagger's back with a steel chair. We saw Swagger like hyping up his ankle lock with a steel chair, cinching Del Rio's ankle in the steel chair, and Del Rio barely making the ropes. This is the definition of a brutal match. At one point, Del Rio even just buried, like something straight out of old school ECW. Del Rio buried Swagger in a mountain of steel chairs. And at one point had him in the armbar as well.
These pictures are amazing.
I know, impeccable. They really get in on the action. These are actually some of my favorites from TLC. They just get right in there. Eventually, Del Rio would finish off Swagger with a double stomp into the pile of steel chairs and retained his United States Championship. Now again, this is another solid win for the League of Nations, which Del Rio is a part of. And you notice no Zeb Coulter here, and I think that was for the better, all right? I mean, Zeb Coulter really no longer serves a purpose to either Swagger or Del Rio. I mean, Del Rio's kind of more in the League of Nations now than he ever was with Zeb Coulter. And I liked the promo that they did pre-show with Del Rio about signaling his departure from Mex America. He more or less admitted that he should never have trusted an American like Zeb Coulter. And I think that ties in more with Del Rio's established anti-American stance. I mean, it makes more sense for his character. I think it's actually a bit of derailment for Del Rio's anti-American nature being a part of the League of Nations. I think that's a good way to tie him back in and just kind of reinforce what his character is really all about here. So all in all, a solid match. Solid storyline advancement as far as Del Rio being in the League of Nations, having it make more sense rather than him just being a bit player. And I think, again, all in all, a pretty good match. I think they innovated the steel chair as well as they could. All right, so now we move on to the next. Now we move on to the next match. I'm drawing a bit of a blank here. Yes, the Intercontinental Championship match. The only non-stipulation match of the non-gimmick match of the evening, with no chairs, no ladders, no tables, but plenty of brutality to be had here between the challenger Dean Ambrose and the champion Kevin Owens. Now, I mean, this match, it was, again, like Kevin Owens conditioned out, and Ambrose took it like a champ. I mean, this was just back and forth. You had plenty of 6 spots. At one point, you had Kevin hitting Dean with a fallaway slam right into the ringside barrier. I mean, you see it right here. That is
another incredible picture. I wish I was a photographer at these things.
I know, me too. That is incredible. That hurts.
I mean, look at Owens' body. Look how he's doing that.
No. You have to remember, he's been a professional in wrestling for over 15 years. For a man his size, he is in remarkable shape.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. For a guy of his size, I mean, he seems a little chubby. He doesn't seem athletic, but he really is.
No, he is. That's something you can never underestimate with guys who may look like they do with Kevin Owens, but in reality are in amazing shape. I mean, you have to look at guys like Kevin Owens, like Samoa Joe, who's also another big guy, but he's incredibly athletic and moves like a cruiserweight. All right. Now, in the end, Owens seemed like he was closing in on another victory, goes for the pop-up powerbomb out of nowhere. Dean gets a surprise Hurricanrana into a double leg roll-up for the 3 count and winning his first Intercontinental Championship.
And I want to say that I picked him.
I'm glad you did. And Brian and I were dead set on Owens retaining his championship here, and I gotta say, I'm pleasantly surprised because this is one of the twists we weren't really expecting. And when you look at it in hindsight, it makes a lot of sense. Owens isn't a part of any major storylines. Surprisingly, not a part of the League of Nations, although I figured he'd been one of the first superstars to be drafted into it.
Canada doesn't count as a nation. Come on.
Oh. Yeah.
Sorry, Canadian fans. Didn't mean to offend anybody.
Yeah. Well, let's see. We got Bret Hart. We got Edge. We got Owen Hart. We got, Chris Benoit, Chris Jericho. So, yeah. And the whole Hart families and the Hart Dungeons. So.
Good job, Brian.
Nah, wait.
Sorry, everybody offended. I told you it was a joke. Jeez, God, get over it, people.
Don't look at me, man. Yeah.
Well, anyway, that Canadian cost you 2 points.
I know. He was my lock of the night. I was dead set on Owens winning, but like I said, I got a little overboard with the fantasy booking. I heard about Sami Zayn coming back. I started putting the pieces together.
You just got too far ahead of yourself, man. Happens to all of us.
Exactly.
Well, not me. Everybody else.
Hey, you went with Owens too.
Yeah, but I still won.
Yeah.
No, but you're right. It does make sense. Now we can see a trilogy for these guys. So
yeah, and now you even have Ziggler in the mix, and I like the interesting promo. Just a sec. The interesting promo from Ziggler this last night on SmackDown. More or less, he admitted that with his whole program with Tyler Breeze, he kind of became a background character, which is really not befitting of Dolph Ziggler, just given how much he's accomplished in the last couple of years. What with him, with the eliminating 4 members of Team Authority at last year's Survivor Series, having a remarkable WrestleMania. Just amazing programs with the likes of Cesaro, Kevin Owens, John Cena, the White, Luke Harper, Daniel Bryan. Ziggler's put on some amazing matches. So I think it makes sense here that he reinserts himself here into the Intercontinental Championship picture, because you've had Owens bad-mouthing all the past champions, including Ziggler. So of course Ziggler would be offended. And now we could very well be looking at a triple threat situation coming up at Royal Rumble. Hey, I'd be all for that. Ziggler, Owens, Ambrose, sign me up.
Yeah, baby.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so now we come to what was...
You know what? I'm going to disagree with you on that. I really would love to see this between Ambrose and Owens and have this get nasty, and I mean real nasty. These two can bring out the best promos and just bring the violence back. It sounds bad to say, but there used to be a time where you used to have guys like Stone Cold just beat people like Randy Orton used to do in his prime. I could see that of both of these guys. It could be a nasty, violent, old school throwback feud, and I just want to see those two. I don't care about Dolph Ziggler in this match.
I want to see these two in a street fight.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Street fight. Just let it all out. That's why I'm surprised there was no stipulation for this match. I guess they didn't want to go overboard because you already had all the different stipulations in place here for all the different matches. And like I said, much like their Survivor Series installment, this could have gone another 5-6 minutes. These two have so much potential here. You can always count on Owens and Ambrose to put together a good match, especially with each other. But just have them take it, like you said, one step further with a street fight or maybe a ladder match, or just some no-holds-barred scenario where they can just...
I think we will. I think this feud's just getting started.
Oh, no, I know. We're far from done here. We saw a whole new attitude from Owens, even for him. You want to talk about brutal. Owens came out on Raw the following night, just went postal on Ambrose, both Ambrose and Ziggler, pop-up power bombing Ambrose not once but twice, and then taking Ziggler and power bombing him right onto Ambrose. I honestly wish I got a photo of that, because this was a surreal sight to see, is that we saw a revamped Owens. This is the same kind of Owens we saw debuting against John Cena. More aggressive, more egotistical, more maniacal Kevin Owens. And that's what I think you're talking about. This feud is going to get nasty. It's going to get brutal. It's going to get even more physical, if that's even possible, between these two. And we're going to see it culminate. I don't know if it's going to be just on some random episode of Raw. We don't know if it's going to be a Royal Rumble. This could, I mean, like I said, a little bit of fantasy. They could take this all the way to WrestleMania for all we know. So you never know here with these two. All right. So now we come to, I mean, this is one of the crazier ones. A 8-man elimination tag team table match. Oh, nope.
I'm coming.
Give it a sec. Nope. No.
Okay, bear with me.
All right,
You can introduce the match.
All right, so we had an 8-man elimination tag team table match between the Wyatt family and the ECW originals, the Dudley Boys, Tommy Dreamer, and Rhino. Now this all came about when the Wyatts were steaming after their embarrassing loss at Survivor Series. They were looking to take out their rage on the Dudley Boys. Dudleys did not take too kind to that and responded in kind by trying to put the Wyatts through table after table, enlisting the help of their longtime friends, Tommy Dreamer and Rhino. Now, obviously, I mean, this was a fun, if not disjointed, match between the Wyatts and the ECW originals. I liked what happened. I mean, there were a few slip-ups here and there, but for the most part, this did what it needed to do. I mean, the Wyatts eventually coming out on top with only one member, Eric Rowan, eliminated by being put through a table. They needed the dominant win. The Wyatts needed to look dominant here. They needed the rebound from Survivor Series, and even got more of a rebound the following night on Raw in Philadelphia, the birthplace of ECW, in Philadelphia, where they beat the originals at their own game in an Extreme Rules match. The following night on Raw, which was even more extreme, it was even more brutal. I mean, we saw some weird spots, and we saw a little bit of the evolution of Braun Strowman here. We saw that he's capable of putting together a big spot like he did with Tommy Dreamer and power slamming him through the ringside barrier. So, I mean, we're seeing a little bit of improvement with the Wyatt family individually and as a whole. I mean, so all in all, I think the last couple of nights, TLC and Raw were big for the Wyatts. They needed to come back here strong, and I think that's what was accomplished here. I mean, Brian, do you feel like that the Wyatts can start to be taken seriously again as a dominant, dangerous group?
They can start to be taken seriously again, but they're going to have to do more than beat up some 40-year-old washed up. I mean, still fun guys to watch, but come on, let's go. They still got beat by The Undertaker and Kane, and that's going to be in the back of my mind for a while. So they're going. This is a good start, but they're going to have to do more. They're going to have. They might have to go in toe to toe with the League of Nations and do some stuff with the Authority for me to take them seriously again.
They teased that. I mean, they teased that with the confrontation last week between the League of Nations and the Wyatts. I mean, so you definitely. Not just with Roman Reigns, you get some anti-authority vibes from the Wyatt family, and you'd have to think there's going to be something coming soon that would make Bray Wyatt and family, turn. I mean, not necessarily turn, but turn their attention to the Authority, to the League of Nations, to other heel figures who try to establish themselves as the predominant group in WWE.
And I also think, I know both of you and I talked about this, we need to see more singles matches out of not only Strowman, but also Bray Wyatt, because, he was a top guy for a while, and he's been sort of getting lost in this whole Wyatt family group that he hasn't really been able to distinguish himself as a singles competitor like he should be able to. So we need to see more singles dominance out of these guys.
I mean, we saw that in 2014, like with matches he had with Dean Ambrose, we remember back to 2014. He had an amazing match with Daniel Bryan. When push comes to shove, Bray is capable of putting on a great match. I mean, because look at that match. You look back to that match, you had an absolutely rabid crowd for Daniel Bryan actually cheering a Bray Wyatt victory. So he's charismatic, he's capable, and he's physical.
In his match with Roman Reigns at Hell in a Cell. Heck,
Exactly.
that was one of the best matches of the year, in my opinion.
I think it's one of those rare losses where he comes out looking just as good as Roman did. It reestablished the fact that, oh, hey, Bray Wyatt's one bad dude. I mean, so I think the latter half of 2015 is going to be a real, aside from Survivor Series, I think it's going to be a real turning point for not only the Wyatt family, but Bray Wyatt himself. I get a strong notion that 2016 is where we're really going to see the Wyatt family come to fruition here.
Ken, what's the name of that move? I mean, that looks like a yoga move right there.
Well,
I think
actually,
it's called a crab.
that's more or less a crab. It's a spider. It's more like a spider crawl. You know how
It actually is a bridge pose in yoga, by the way.
it is. It is
Yeah,
actually
straight up.
But here, you know how Undertaker and Kane had their like immortal sit up.
I think it's the crab.
Like they'll be out of it.
Oh, no,
they'll be
it's
out
the
of
bridge,
it.
you're right,
Seemingly,
you're right.
they'll be laid on the ground, and suddenly they rise up like this. I mean, that's the same thing with.
Can you
Bray.
demonstrate that on the table, please?
Please.
Okay, maybe at the end of the show.
Okay, Brian's coming in to set you up.
Oh God. All right. Well, I'm gonna have to take my mic off. All right. Well, okay. I'm gonna have to lie on the. All right. All right. So. Oh, if this falls over, if this falls over.
This is great television right here.
Yeah. Me tipping a table over. Okay. All right. So essentially the way it goes. Essentially, Undertaker or Kane, they're laid out, they're like this, and then suddenly, just out of nowhere, they pop up like that. Like they have the 1,000-yard stare, and yeah. But with Bray Wyatt, it's more. Oh, jeez. Okay, that's one for the blooper reel right there. All right, he does the same thing, except he gets up into a crab walk position, and with his upside down beard, it just looks like surreal, like it's like something right out of The Exorcist. All right. All right. And that's my exercise. That's my exercise for the week. All right. All right, hold on. Oh yeah, that's a good photo op right there.
Good job, Ken.
Thank you. Well, not
Moving on.
moving on. Moving on. Moving on. Moving on. All right. We come to the main event match. The big one. The aptly named Tables, Ladders, and Chairs match. Oh my. Between the WWE World Champion Sheamus and the challenger Roman Reigns. Now, there's a lot going into this, whether Roman could overcome Sheamus, the League of Nations, the Authority, just overcome everything, and finally garner the WWE World Championship that he's been chasing for pretty much the entire year since winning the Royal Rumble in January. Now, this match was about everything we could possibly expect out of tables, ladders, and chairs. Suplexes through tables, brutal chair shots, a Samoan drop through the ladder, which was amazing, which was a brutal spot. This right here was the opening. This was the opening of the match. Roman just laying right into Sheamus with a right hand. I watched the opening match. I heard that. Like that was about as stiff a shot as you saw. You looked at Sheamus's face. He was already swelling up on the right side of his face. That kind of just set the tone for how physical this match would be. And like I said, Roman has not had a bad match in 2015. You look at any of his feuds, even the Last Man Standing match he had earlier in the year with Big Show was remarkable because he made the Big Show look good in 2015.
Greg, did you hear that?
He made the Big Show look good.
Ken just said the Big Show looked good and that he looked better than Roman Reigns.
In 2015. In 2015. Oh, God.
Wait, what did he say?
I already said it 3 times. That's my Christmas gift to
Ken,
you.
but say it to Greg.
That's my Christmas gift to you.
Look him in the eyes and say it.
Roman Reigns made the Big Show look good in 2015.
Big Show looks
You see, now, is that so hard?
Yeah, that's my Christmas gift for the year. It's non-refundable.
No, cool. Look what he did. Look at us.
Uh-oh. Julie, everyone can see
Look at
you.
he's so happy now. He's getting so creative.
Oh, of course he is.
Christmas came early for Greg.
Yep.
Ken, doesn't the belt look good on me?
It looks better than it does on you than on Brian. You don't think the belt looks good on Julie, Brian?
It's my belt. It looks good on me. That's all I'm going to say.
But it doesn't look good on Julie?
It's my belt. It looks good on me. That's all I'm going to say.
But it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good?
I'm keeping that belt for the whole 2016. So,
Avoiding the question.
no, looks good on me.
Someone got some explaining to do. Okay. Anyway, all right. Like I said, okay. So getting back to the match. Zoom it up. Zoom it out. Zoom it out. There you go. Okay. Now, I mean, like I said, we got everything we expect from this match. Like I said, as far as TLC goes, I mean, yeah, I mean, you see right here with the Samoan drop through the ladder. That was bad. That was brutal. I mean, they gave you everything, and despite an objectionable Boston crowd, I think I said this on Facebook. I said this with the coverage that much in the same vein as the Lesnar Reigns match, this match got more brutal, it got more physical, and it got the crowd more invested as the match went on. At one point, the crowd was chanting CM Punk, "We want Rollins, we miss Rollins, we miss Cena." I mean, pretty much any match to get under Reigns and Sheamus' skin. But at the end, they were actively cheering. They were in this match, and you have to really thank Reigns and Sheamus for getting the crowd back into this for the main event. Now, I mean, one of my favorite moments, and I'm sorry I couldn't get a photo of this, was Reigns leaping up the ladder, Superman punching Sheamus off it through a table. That was one of the more surreal spots I saw. I couldn't find a photo. I couldn't find a decent photo of it. In the end, the League of Nations came out, as we were expecting, got involved here, delaying Reigns long enough for Sheamus to deliver a bro kick, get up the ladder, and take down the WWE Championship. Now, you think that would be the end of another discipline